reverse it and I'm going to write the opinion and you want to reconsider. I said, well, let me think about it over the weekend. He called me on Friday. And then Vince called me up that following Monday. He says, now 10-0 against you. And I said, well, you know, I'm never too proud enough to learn. I understand what you wrote. I understand. I sat and thought about it. I said, look, it's assigned to me. I'll reconsider and I'll write it again because I think, you know, and I mean, the Supreme Court denied review on that, but you know, I mean, the bottom line is you're a public servant and you want to do it right. You got to get it right, and you can't be too proud. You have to be humble enough to say, you know what? You know, we ask juries to do that all the time. If you disagree, think about it, go back and talk. And when they sat and talked about it, I said, you know, I think we missed something when we initially talked, and this is the better result here. And I said, I understand. I'll follow that. You know, you get a lot of help when you write these opinions too, but I had no problems with that, and I appreciated their efforts and their integrity.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Jim, what do you expect to be the biggest difference between sitting as a circuit judge and sitting in an appellate capacity?
It's quieter. I mean, I don't even say that.
I know it is, and I'm wondering then how, you know, what you think would be necessary in order to kind of keep that touch with the public and the community.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that have been talked about, and one of the things that I would suggest if I have the ability to do, I'm a strong believer that, you know, because you're an appellate judge, you're judging circuit judge activities, that's important to have circuit judges on the appellate court. I think appellate judges should sit in circuit court every year, at least for a week, just to stay in touch, just to remember what it was like, because it's easy to read and look at it, you know, the transcript, and you don't get the flavor. And I know they write that in opinions, the cold record. That's true, because, you know, I'll look at stuff that I've said and go, boy, that really. But the context is different, and I think you as an appellate judge have to remember that when you're the circuit judge, things are going on, that nobody gets a perfect trial. It has to be a fair trial. Just remember that when you're looking at the record, that judge hopefully is doing the best he or she can do at the time. And I think sometimes the further away you get from anything, just like as a circuit judge, you get away. I was a private attorney. You get away from that after a while, just as a matter of course, that you have to remember what private attorneys go through. And I think appellate judges need to appreciate that. And I have great respect for this court over here, because I've been on a short list with most of them. So I've known them all up in the governor's office and otherwise in working with them. But I think they have a great understanding of that, better in my opinion than some of the other appellate courts that I read their opinions. I mean, I read their opinions every week. I follow their document. I mean, I have a passion for that. And I think you lose something. I don't know if you have the ability to do that. I don't know why, but I would be more than happy. I help out now for other circuit judges. In fact, I just volunteered to increase my docket. Lee will be happy. I asked to go back on probate to help you guys. Lee?
What's your appellate batting average?
Well, let me say this. I mean, just to be fair without patting myself on the back, I've rarely been reversed. But that being said, I've been on felony dockets. And if you've ever been on a felony docket as a circuit judge, you get appealed all the time. And a lot of it's pro se appeals or criminal appeals. And those get PCA'd a lot. So I've probably, if I've had 200 or so appeals, I may have been reversed 3 or 4 times. But, you know, I don't want to toot my own horn necessarily, because you know, you'll tell criminals, okay, you're pleading, I accepted your plea, you can't appeal anymore, and they appeal.
How many of those were summary judgment grants? Estimate.
2 or 3. I mean, I don't, most of my appeals are felony. I mean, I can go look at it right now, and I probably have 30 pending over there, and 26 of them are criminal. So, I would say maybe a handful. I've not gotten reversed on, granting summary judgments and then getting reversed. I can't think of that happening. I mean, there's been a couple cases that I've been reversed on. First one I ever got reversed was granting a new trial on a personal injury case. That I outsmarted if I would have stuck to my gut reaction, I would have denied the motion, but I decided to overthink, much to my chagrin, I guess. But not too many summary judgments that have been appealed and reversed. I don't think they.
Todd, just real quick.
Yes, sir.
Governor Todd Copeland, and I noticed you said you had an insurance defense background before going on the bench.
Yes,
I also noticed that you were a member of the Academy of Florida Trial Lawyers.
I was.
At one time, a successor group of which I'm in an officer position currently, and I was curious, what year were you with the Academy, and what type of plaintiff's work did you do?
When I started with Savage Crim in the early 80s, we had a plaintiff's practice, and as a new lawyer, I joined it back then, and I would do, personal injury cases. I would help out my partners doing things like that. I was probably at the Academy for 7, 8 years. What actually happened in insurance defense, all kidding aside, is in Little League Baseball, one of my colleagues, one of my coaches, we were new to the teams, and we were collectively the two worst coaches, the two worst teams here, and he had just moved to Ocala from Ohio, and he was a claims manager for a big company out of Cleveland called Westfield Insurance Company. And he looked at me and said, well, do you want to do some insurance defense work? And I was, I said, well, sure. I mean, I like to try cases, and I'd like to do that. And I had good luck with it. I won a lot of cases, and so when I went off on my own, that was my main client. And that's how I became an insurance defense, because I was raising a family and feeding a family, and I had good success with that company, and they kept sending me things, and I was a sole practitioner doing big insurance defense work. And that's how I became that's how I ended up doing that.
Any other questions? If not, Judge, you got 2 minutes to close.
Oh, well, again, I thank you for the time for doing this. I think because of my broad experience, both as a trial lawyer, AV-rated trial lawyer, and actually the other thing I didn't throw out, I forgot, is I probably would have qualified to be a board-certified appellate lawyer if I had thought about it back then, because I had done a number of appeals, but I just never thought about doing that. I think I would be an asset to the 5th DCA. I write well, I write promptly, I got a lot of compliments for my work. I think I'm respected by the judges over there. I have a passion for the job. I mean, I've applied for this job, I've wanted to do this job, I enjoy the analytical process. It's hard to explain when you're looking at case law, you're looking at the facts of the case, and you write an opinion, and it all kind of comes together. It's just maybe it's just unique to me or bizarre to me, I don't know, but it's something that I truly enjoy. I hit the ground running. I do all my judgments and orders. I write opinions. So I think it's important. I think I have the maturity at this stage of my life to do this. I understand the process. I understand the role of a judge. You are a public servant. I understand you don't reinvent the law. You don't write the law. I'm appreciative of that. I think I'm qualified. It's a very humbling experience to come before this commission. I've done it many times before. I'm always, other than Lewis today and Carol Falvey, Judge Falvey now 10 years ago, I've never known anybody on the commission, but I've been honored each time to be passed on to the governor on the short list. I've appreciated that. It keeps you humble, it keeps you focused. I've appreciated the kind letters, the letters that you've received from the judges and friends. Those are somewhat unsolicited. I don't go coach them and say, here, write this good letter about me. That means as much to me as getting through on the commission and getting the job. But I would appreciate your courtesies and your consideration for me, and I know it's a difficult job. And I thank you for the time. I know how much time you all have to put in to do this, because having done it many times, I know how it is for lawyers. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your.
I think we'll do one more and take a 5-minute break.